Mask on or off?
Off, and we're outdoors.
Okay, sure.
We got a reasonable amount of distance. I don't care. If you prefer me to wear my mask, I'm happy to do it.
All right.
Grab your earphones.
Yeah, sure.
Gotcha. My name is Barrett. What's your name, bud?
Leif?
Leif. Good to meet you, man. Are you okay with us recording this?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's also being broadcast on YouTube Live.
Okay, YouTube Live? Okay.
Yeah, cool. So what we do is we ask people to say something that they believe, and then we try to get to the bottom why you believe it.
Okay. Yeah,
So
sure.
is there any of the subjects up there, or anything in particular you believe or you want to talk about?
I guess something that I've seen a lot recently is the kind of whole Dave Chappelle controversy.
Okay.
And I'm pretty in the camp of Dave Chappelle was like out of line, and I think that people that are kind of defending him are kind of missing the point of why what he said is so controversial and kind of damaging.
Okay. So do you want to talk about the people defending him, or specifically what's out of line about what he said?
I suppose what's out of line about what he said.
So let me see if I'm going to write this down, and let's see if that's what the question is,
Sure.
or your belief is that Dave Chappelle's comments were harmful? Were they out of line? What do you mean by out of line?
I think that well there are a lot of things. I think that they were fairly reductive to the conversations of kind of what is punching up and punching down in comedy, what is acceptable, I guess, targets for comedy, and how do we make how do we tell comedy and tell jokes without being kind of picking on people that don't really deserve it, and whether or not it's hard to explain, but a lot of Dave Chappelle's special was about that kind of tension between comedy and audience, and I think that I guess my issue lies more with people that are actively defending it, because I think he spends a whole lot of time trying to talk about why he should be allowed to make these kind of homophobic or transphobic remarks without really kind of self-reflecting on why you wouldn't want to do that in the first place. And I don't know, it's just something that I've been thinking about, and I can't really articulate exactly what it is, but the discourse around it has been bothering me.
Okay. Let's see if we can let's work on that. Let's see
Yeah.
if we can figure out what the specifics of it are.
Yeah, sure.
So which specific comments do you think the people are having? Where do you think people are missing the point? Or which comments are the ones that they're talking about that seem to be causing you to have some concerns?
I think that what gives me the most pause is particularly the people talking about how they thought he handled his the transgender issues well. I thought that while I was watching the Dave Chappelle special, I was just kind of disgusted by almost everything he said regarding trans issues and trans people, and even when he was getting to kind of the more emotional core of it, with this anecdote about the trans comedian that he met, and how people kind of excused, said that his comments weren't transphobic or harmful because he admitted to having a trans friend, essentially, I don't think is particularly convincing to me. to tell me that like Dave Chappelle was like justified in essentially dedicating so much of his stand-up special to harmful rhetoric.
So is that? Let me see. I'm trying to boil it down. I'm trying to
Yeah.
get your words, and please correct me if I'm not understanding what you're saying.
Sure.
It's kind of taking should get a umbrella up the the sun is taking a beating out of you
Especially
there.
bad for me, yeah.
Yeah, you don't tan well?
Oh yeah, who'd have thunk?
Who would have thought? So Dave Chappelle's comments on transgender issues were harmful or ignorant or both? Or
Yeah, they were ignorant and they were harmful, certainly.
which part seems to bother you more? The ignorance of it or the harm it could possibly do?
I think the harm it could possibly do.
Let's go with harmful.
Yeah.
Okay. Harmful to trans people or to society at large, to...
I mean, I think that if it is harmful to trans people, it is harmful to society at large because
Okay.
they're part of society just like everyone else. And I think that it's harmful to, kind of the broader discussion of trans issues, especially in regards to people that might not know too much about it.
Okay. So do you think is that an accurate portrayal of... I sucked a little air. So Dave Chappelle's comments on transgender issues were harmful.
Yes.
Okay. What is your number one reason for believing? What makes you think that it's harmful? What is if you had to point to one reason why you think it was harmful? What would that reason be?
Because I think that the way that Dave Chappelle talks about the issues kind of downplays or diminishes the real struggle that is like associated with trans issues. Because I'm trying to think of how to explain this succinctly. Essentially, he acknowledges the kind of inherent ties between transgender issues and mental health with his story about, the trans comedian that he met and talked to and her suicide. However, just before, talking about that, he, goes on like kind of these kind of long tirades about like, defending J.K. Rowling for what she said and like, making kind of like really blatant and like, just classically like, not good jokes about like trans people and to the extent to which they might pass or, like just making fun of their looks or how they're like, basically saying not real, instances of the gender with which they identify. And so it felt like very hypocritical to kind of try to have your cake and eat it too. And I think ultimately what that does is it kind of allows people, or I guess he's trying to, it kind of opens up like a can of worms where you can basically say whatever you want no matter how damaging it might be to someone's perceptions. And especially in this case, like, of course, like trans perceptions are incredibly important and trans views are incredibly important because of, as we know, like, mental health kind of intersections there. And I think that he kind of, again, it's a have your cake and eat it too kind of situation where he makes a show of empathy without really understanding the ways in which that empathy should be applied. He acknowledges, like, yes, this is a human experience that these people are going through, and yet he doesn't acknowledge the role he plays in, like, taking kind of applying the societal pressures that, trans people face every single day.
Let me ask a question with that.
Yeah.
So back to his comments were harmful. What made you believe they were harmful? I mean, there was I'm trying to understand what about his comments were harmful.
Well,
Is it?
I think that in general, transphobia is just harmful to the people involved because, again, like with something that is so involved with mental health, and especially considering how many of transgender people are like, it is essential to how society treats them and how they perceive them. And I think that what Dave Chappelle did was he is essentially advocating for a level of rhetoric that it does not like kind of it lacks like that kind of interpersonal empathy in the ways that matter or would be kind of conducive to I guess, again, I'm trying to figure out how to put this succinctly. I don't think I think what he says is harmful because it's the pressures that trans people face every day are one of them. This is like, even aside from just like just obvious and clear like violence against them. It is people basically not acknowledging the legitimacy of their situation and not acknowledging how they are truly feeling. And what Dave Chappelle does is he essentially says, I acknowledge that you are feeling something, but he doesn't exactly acknowledge that what they are feeling is necessarily true, just based in his rhetoric. So I think that ultimately he kind of opens the door for people to just kind of ignore, what trans people ultimately want, which is to be, acknowledged as legitimate. Instead, he just kind of says like, I'm not gonna. He kind of hedges a little bit. He doesn't acknowledge them as legitimate while still saying there might be something there, but ultimately I think that he takes the side of non-legitimacy, and I think like that lack of societal acceptance is in fact harmful to them. So
let's see if we can narrow it down a little bit. Dave Chappelle's comments were on transgender issues were harmful.
Yeah.
They were harmful because they were transphobic.
Yes,
Okay.
I think transphobic comments in and of themselves do cause harm.
And what made them transphobic was he didn't. And I'm saying what I'm hearing, but
Yeah.
I may be saying it wrong. So please explain them to me if I'm not getting it right. That his comments were transphobic because they indicated that he did not acknowledge the legitimacy of their feelings, of their
Right. Well, the
legitimacy of what?
The one that I think of the most, and I'm kind of reticent to restate them because I do think that what he said was like really, really bad. But essentially, he reiterates J.K. Rowling's point, where J.K. Rowling essentially says that trans women are not real women. And the way that Dave Chappelle decides to do this is like he makes like, I think he makes like an Impossible Burger reference or something. He does something like insane and outrageous, and it's just like he says something that's like so on its face like offensive, and saying essentially telling people, trans people, that they will like never ever in his eyes be seen as legitimate as any other person of that gender. And it's I think like frankly it was rather flippant of him to do, and it seemed like he was doing it without much, I guess, care for what he was saying.
So I guess what I would ask then, it's the comments were transphobic because they don't acknowledge the legitimacy of their gender.
Yes.
Is that am I saying it right?
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
That's about right. That's about right.
Don't acknowledge the of I guess then what makes me a question I would be like, what do you think he does not what is legitimacy of gender? What does that mean to you?
Legitimacy of gender, to my understanding, is essentially it is acknowledging that a transgender person should be allowed to live and be treated comfortably as the gender with which they identify. And what Dave Chappelle essentially says is that this is, in his view, kind of an impossibility, and he kind of treats it as though it were a fantasy that while he will entertain, he will not treat seriously. And I think that is an essential part of the issue, because while it is like he's not like, you know, there's a different degrees of kind of that mindset. He's not like out and out like hateful, or he's not like outwardly just straight up like, you know, saying hateful things, but he's saying like very ignorant things that I think would not be like. Sorry, sun's in my eyes.
No, I'm sorry, man.
I'm
like,
trying to concentrate.
Yeah, no. Do you think? Do you want to borrow his hat? Would that help?
I'm good.
Okay.
I actually might step out because I gotta get some work done.
Yeah, I got you, man. I guess what is?
That's so hard.
What could Dave Chappelle say or do that would change your mind about his being transphobic? Is there what could he have said or done that would be different, or what could he say or do that would be different now that would change your mind? What does a non-transphobic comment look like to you?
I mean, frankly, if you ask me, I think what Dave Chappelle should have done is just tell the jokes, you know? I think ultimately what he's doing is he's kind of like commenting strongly on things that he doesn't really seem to know too much about. And ultimately, like, it's not even very funny. He kind of forgoes comedy in order to rant, and while people are like, oh yes, this was very essential for him to do, it really wasn't. I think, like, if you wanted to convince me that, you know, Dave Chappelle wasn't transphobic, I would just say, don't say transphobic things. That's basically it. I'm not asking Dave Chappelle to become, like, you know, this strong ally or anything like that.
An advocate or something along those lines, right?
Yeah. But I am asking, like, you know, you don't have to make a stand-up set defending J.K. Rowling and, you know, her comments, which are just so brazen and stuff like that. You don't have to, you know, come out here and start talking about, you know, how the extent to which, you know, trans people might pass, or you don't have to like make jokes at their expense in order to try to convince me that, you know, you're not transphobic actually. Just like tell you know, jokes that aren't about that. Just he kind of poo-poos the idea of punching up and punching down, but really I think that's literally just it. Just don't, you know, just if you don't have anything like really, if you don't really know what you're talking about in regards to this, definitely don't make comedy about it. And if you get, you know, backlash for it, you don't make an entire set complaining about it and, you know, forego jokes. I think, like, just as a comedian, that's just kind of, you know, a failure of, you know, comedic writing. If you're just, you know, ranting about stuff that kind of mildly pisses you off instead of, you know, doing what you need to do and, like, writing what you know.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha, man. Well, I don't want to. I want to. I mean, I got a lot of questions, but I don't want to keep you.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm good.
Cool, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Like, welcome to Take One of Those Pieces. We'd love for you to come back. We're here on particular reads here, but usually on Wednesdays between 11 and 3. Come back and if you have any more thoughts on it or anything like that, let us know, man.
All right, sure.
Yep. Awesome. Good to meet you, Leif. Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Riley.
I'm Barrett.